Tonight on Podcast Them Down, Sonata Arctica, what the fuck happened? Podcast Them Down. Hail Metal Nation! It is I, Tim. This is Podcast Them Down. Joining me are Dave and Mike from some combination of recently vacated graves, true zombie metal, Eisenmore, dual violin, folk metal, and Burning Shadows, Eldritch, U.S. power metal, or American power metal, as Doug would make me say. So, we are here today to discuss what the fuck happened to Sonata Arctica. They used to be great, and then they stopped being great. And I forget what approach we took with Cryptopsy when we did the the Cryptopsy episode. I'm pretty sure I avoided saying fuck in the first minute so YouTube wouldn't demonetize it very quickly, you know, but we're below those thresholds. We're below those thresholds, so it doesn't fucking matter, does it?
Not even a fucking bit.
All right, so where do you want to start?
I want to start with Sonata Arctica's beginnings. All right, so Sonata Arctica started off as a band called Tricky Beans in 96.
Yep.
And then changed to Tricky Means.
Yep, and everyone who is a fan of Sonata Arctica has learned this fact and promptly stuffed it down and just said, we're going to ignore that.
Whatever.
Right.
That's probably some sort of Finnish joke.
Yeah, maybe I just don't get it.
Yeah. So, and I'm actually just reading from Metal Archives right now, but it's playing hard rock pop music, and that later evolved into what we know of as Sonata Arctica.
Yes, right? But what it literally says is Stradivarius inspired power metal. And I think that's an awfully generous term for ripping off Stradivarius as hard as possible.
Fair enough.
That first album, Ecliptica, sounds like they're just doing they're just doing a Stradivarius impression and doing it better than Stradivarius. It's like strip off all of Timo Tolkki's bullshit and like every way he can ruin a song, and you have just take all the crap out, and then you have Sonata Arctica's first album. It's like distilled maybe Stradivarius.
Yeah,
precisely.
So Ecliptica is the first album, comes out, it's spectacular. It's a very, very good album. One interesting bit of it is that I was reading some notes on the Ecliptica re-release. And one of the things that they mention about the recording of Ecliptica is that they didn't have clicks or anything like that.
Oh, really?
So they just had like these raw tracks. So I never thought to like go through and like time the tempos because there's some like man, I'm going way off the rails here. I found a white paper about bands that recorded to a click versus those that didn't. Like the Beatles did not
they
to a metronome.
Clicks. Are you down on Ringo Starr, real name Richard Starkey, also known as the human metronome to no one?
Well, I mean, it's not that he couldn't keep tempo, but it's like it varies more than somebody who's playing to something mechanically generated or electronically generated, right?
This ties in nicely with our discussion about Opeth last night because, or perhaps, dear listener, in the future.
I mean, whenever that episode aired,
right,
or will air.
If you listen to Orchid, their debut, oh my goodness, like. It's all over the place.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes. I mean, to the point where if I were Michael Okerfeld, I would retcon it and be like, no, that was a written Accelerando.
All right.
But no click for Sonata Arctica on their debut. Wild.
Yeah. Just interesting tidbit. It has nothing really to do with what the fuck happened. But all right. See, Ecliptica comes out. Then we have Silence. That comes out 2 years later. Go ahead.
This is a good time to mention how I got into Sonata Arctica. I was at a Burning Shadows show in Virginia, and there used to be a guy, I don't know, Dave, if you remember this, there'd be a guy who just bring crates of CDs for sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just go and like buy stuff. And me being poor, right? I he had like a box full of like discounted CDs, and I'm flipping through them, and I come across Jag Panzer. Okay. So I had heard of Jag Panzer, so I'm like, I definitely want this. And as you can see, as you can hear, Metal Nation, it is a promo version of The Age of Mastery that's just in a cardboard sleeve, and it has the release dates on it. There's a legal notice on the back that says this CD is the property of Century Media Records. It is being licensed for promotional use only and must be returned on demand. The CD cannot be sold.
I beg to differ.
Any sale is unlawful and may be punishable under federal and state law. So,
heavens.
So,
going to jail.
Yeah, definitely. And so I got that, and then he goes, "Oh, what else are you into? So you like power metal?" And he goes, "Check this out. You should buy this too." And it's the same thing, only it's for Silence. So I have since bought both of the real releases of these promo CDs because I like having jewel cases. But yeah, like this thing is the promo copy, and I listened to it and I was like, I'm all in. And this was the latest album at the time because it was probably 2001 or 2. And according to this, the
street date.
Yeah, Silence came out on September 4th, 2001. So it's rare that I can say exactly when I got into a band, but there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's worth noting here that I think Silence pretty much is a pretty direct continuation of the style established in Ecliptica.
Yes, however, I think it evolved some into a more Sonata Arctica sound. Like they're starting to divorce from the Stradivarius worship.
Right.
But yes, it is still very much similar to the first album.
Yeah, it's matured somewhat, but it's in the same style.
I think one of the things that distinguishes Silence from Ecliptica and that starts to define Sonata Arctica's style is the Sonata Arctica ballad. Like, you have got arguably 2 of them on Ecliptica if you want to call Replica a ballad, which I guess it is. Yeah. And like Letter to Dana, right? And like the first part of Full Moon, maybe. But with Tallulah and help me out here.
Well, why don't I just pull up the track list? Oh, it's
The Power of One.
The Power of One. Tallulah, the second ballad on Silence. I am attempting my damnedest not to have any dead air here, but my God, is it hard?
Is it the end of this chapter?
The end of this chapter. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's the one.
I'm looking at the song list too.
There we go. Thank you. And Last Drop Falls. Like, they've got 3 banging ballads on that album that very much start to establish their emotional, like deeply personal lyrical content, which is something that Stradivarius never really explored. They were more of like the, platonic ideal of freedom and happiness, and at least to me.
Yeah. And, both those first 2 albums actually the third one too, have very, very few, if any, weaknesses.
Yeah, there's like no downtime at all.
No downtime at all.
Yeah, like even the bad songs are amazing,
And I would say that extends even to Winterheart's Guild, although that's first album bias for me. I got Winterheart's Guild, and then probably
it was my first as well.
This would have been in like the winter of 2002 or 2003. I can't remember when it came out. And must have gotten Ecliptica shortly thereafter. That I actually came.
Winterheart's Guild was later. 2003, and Reckoning Night was 2004.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Winter Hearts Guild, I think, still is going along like kind of a well-tread path between Ecliptica, Silence. Winter Hearts Guild seems like a natural progression from there. It's still it's a little bit. Do I want to say a little bit more like energetic than maybe Silence is? Or maybe I'm just thinking of the Cage.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the Cage, because we can neatly wrap this up with they've hit their final culmination of the Sonata Arctica Stradivarius worship. You know who does the keyboard solo on that song?
Oh, does what's his name? Yeah, Johansson.
None other than Jens Johansson of Stradivarius does the intro solo for the Cage, and then also the like bridge solo, I guess, or the solo section on keyboards.
That's awesome.
He does keyboard for tracks 3, 4, 6, and 7, which is the Cage, Silver Tongue, Victoria's Secret, and Champagne Bath.
Was this when they were between keyboardists? Maybe
they were auditioning Henrik at the time, I think.
Yeah, Henrik was always my favorite keyboardist, not just because he smashed his guitar at that one show.
Guitar. The thing that blows me away, didn't Tony do the keyboards for Ecliptica?
He's billed as the keyboardist on
yes, there it is
as well.
Yeah, so he did keyboards for Ecliptica, but not the next one, not Silence. And then it looks like he did them for the Winter Hearts Guild. And then right after that came out is when they hired Henrik.
All right, so you have 3 real solid albums.
Yep.
Reckoning Night comes out, and this is, I think, the last of what is considered like their perfect 4. It is different though. Like, it's a little bit more, maybe aggressive is the right term.
You're talking about Reckoning Night?
Yes.
So I hated that album when I got it. And
so
to
did
be
I.
fair, I didn't like Winter Hearts Guild when I got it. I don't know what was wrong with me for Winter Hearts Guild, but what it took for me to warm up to Reckoning Night was the live album that came out slightly after that.
Oh, yeah, For the Sake of Revenge.
Yeah, For the Sake of Revenge, where they play all the best songs from Reckoning Night. And so that's what made it grow on me, but it's still the ranking the studio albums 1 to 4, it's still number 4.
Yeah. See, I think I can put my finger on what it is that bugs metalheads about this album, and I'm going to wait until Mike articulates that last thought.
Well, so it might actually be my favorite of the 4, because it has, for me, like, first off, it has Don't Say a Word, which I know is like a crowd favorite at this point, but I still love that song. I feel like
maybe I've just heard it too many times, but the polish is gone off that one.
I love White Pearl Black Oceans.
Oh yeah.
Misplaced, like, as an opener, it just smacks you in the face with cheesy keyboards. Wonderful. But I looking at this now, I see that there is actually maybe like the lone filler of this album, which is The Boy Who Wanted to Be a Real Puppet.
Ugh.
Yeah, like that song sucks. But other than that, of the first 4 albums, pretty much everything is solid. That's like the only down point. Right? Like, in my opinion, right? You may disagree, but you have 4 real solid albums.
The style has kind of slowed down on this one as well.
Now, I
like Blinded No More, for example.
Yep.
Right.
And it's all down tempo compared to the ferocity and tempo that they had on their first 3 albums. Like, there's no song on here that can like rival Destruction Preventer or Web Allergy or The Cage, like, for BPMs, until you get to the bonus tracks.
Misplaced is pretty fast.
It is, but I can guarantee you from a
tempo
personal experience, it is not as fast as those.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it is, but it's not like that blazing breakneck out of your mind neoclassical power metal that they were doing on those first 3 albums. My contention, with absolutely no scientific or academic backup other than that I listened to the shit out of all of these albums while I was in music school, is that it was this album where they really embraced their pop sensibilities and started writing pop songs.
I could see that.
Consciously being like, because the song structure is different than it was on the first 3 records. Even the harmonic changes that they go to are not traditionally metal, like blues oriented, but more of like the 80s and 90s pop music tradition.
Okay.
And I've always appreciated the fact that Sonata Arctica is a pop band with virtuosic players and distortion and 2 kicks.
When did their guitarist leave?
I think
I don't know why I asked when I have like the fucking timeline right in front of me.
Oh, so I can speculate.
Well,
Wasn't it after
I had
it was,
the timeline in front of me.
It was after Unia.
He's like, fuck this shit. Yeah, Yanni Limatainen left in early 2007. That was after Unia, which I believe I ordered the last time I got sushi.
And Yanni put out a solo album this year.
Is it awesome? He's playing for someone now.
He does all sorts of things.
No, he was playing like in a major band.
The Dark Element, Insomnium.
That's it.
Yeah, Kane's offering the Dark Element and Insomnium. Yep.
Yeah. I want to see him go play with Ensiferum.
He also played for what's her name's band? Annette Olsen. Oh no, that was the Dark Element. Okay, never mind.
All right. So regardless, I mean, you've got 4 albums that are pretty close to one another, right? Like they're the original 4. They're strong. So then out comes this is 2007. Out comes Unia. And Unia is more controversial than the last because here they make like a fairly significant stylistic change. Re-listening to this album, I don't know why I was so down on it. Because I was more down, I agree with you, Tim. When I first heard Reckoning Night, I was like, I can't stand this. And then it grew on me. Unia just never really grew on me. It's got some...
Yeah, so for Unia, it was the same thing. It was like, I fucking hate this. But I said the same thing about the previous 2 albums. So I was like, I'll stick with it, because I ended up liking one and loving the other. So, but they still have a couple of songs on there that are still like, good Sonata Arctica tracks, but it's like the bad songs I've now taken up more than half the album. On the previous, in my opinion, in the previous one, there was only a handful of them. Now they've switched places,
right.
The good and the bad. So, but In Black and White and Paid in Full are just kind of like,
right.
Like those are the best songs. Oh, well, and Caleb's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's still like,
now,
and Elias, is that his name? The new guitarist? Yeah, Elias Viljanen. He is amazingly fantastic, so he has some great solos on there, and I think he plays a 7-string, doesn't he? Like, even though they don't.
I don't think he's on this album. I think Yanni's still.
Yes, but he was on the tour.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's right, he was. I'd forgot. I think this was the last tour that I saw them on. Because
it's not the last Mike saw them on.
Oh yeah, have I a story?
Note to the listeners: this is called foreshadowing.
So I'll say of this album though, I feel like it still sounds like Sonata Arctica, right? Like it has the bits and pieces that I've associated with the Sonata Arctica sound. Tony Kakko crazy harmonies. It's got some upbeat bits in here, and but it's just got something to it that doesn't sit quite as well. Okay. So from Unia, we go on to the Days of Grays. This one is
So
it's weird.
So I have to switch. So I've been following along in my music library, because I'm old. I don't use Spotify. Fuck you,
neither
Spotify. Unless you're listening to Podcast Them Down on Spotify, in which case, thank you.
We support it.
But I have to switch to my my MP3 library, not my FLAC library, because I'm not burning this shit in FLAC. It's not good enough to warrant lossless codecs. All right, so I'm now in my MP3 library, and I can see what was it called?
The Days of Grays.
The Days of Grays.
Now, this is like Sonata Arctica trying out like progressive metal, if I right?
It has
Yes.
the last
Yes.
good Sonata Arctica song,
Which is
Flag in the Ground, which is not a particularly great one, but it's good. And wasn't that like a leftover song from years ago or something?
I'm actually not sure about that one.
I'm pretty sure it is. I read that somewhere, so I'm just gonna say it is indeed truth.
Sounds good. Let's see, but it's like this one is weird because it's very progressive, especially for Sonata Arctica. Like there's lots of like overly ornate composition. There's just a lot going on here, so there's less bangers as a result, right? Like oh yeah, this kicks ass. It's more of like a I don't know how to say it, like an experience.
Cerebral.
Oh
yeah,
More so
weird.
than visceral.
So, well, I'm on the Wikipedia for our
Wiki.
yeah, for our listeners who are not at their computer. I'm saving you the work. Track 2 is an 8-minute song called Death Aura that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 parts. So
Holy Blankenstein.
But again, it's 8 minutes. So those parts are average out to less than a minute apiece. Then they also have a Twilight Zone reference in Everything Fades to Gray, where it says, it's not fair, there was time now. which is from that Twilight Zone where like he's the last man on Earth and he finally gets to read all the books he wants, but he breaks his glasses or something.
Yeah.
Then his eyes fall out, and then his hands.
Right, then his hands fall off and he can't even read the Braille. Yep.
And then his tongue.
But yeah, like this one is particularly strange especially at this point in their career, because it feels like they're, I don't know, maybe going in a Blind Guardian direction where they're just getting like super ornate.
I mean,
it's not a bad thing necessarily, but it's not necessarily why I listen to Sonata Arctica either.
Yeah.
It was like sort of catchy,
exactly
straightforward. Okay, so
something else I learned from this Wikipedia is everyone knows that the Caleb saga. The end of this chapter, don't say a word in Caleb, are part of a story. Well, I never realized they kept going. Juliet on this album is part of that, and then the 9th Hour has Till Death's Done Us Part, and Talvia is the Last of the Lambs. So it keeps going, but it's a shame I'll never find out how it ends. All right, go ahead.
All right. So then we get to Stones Grow Her Name, and this one, so 3 years later.
All right, was this the one where I was just like, I think I was like,
yes.
Okay, there's no hope. Fuck them forever.
And I can tell you why. It's because of the track Cinder Blocks.
I forget if so I do.
It's the one that opens with a banjo. Wow. It opens with a banjo.
No, it was before Cinder Blocks, and I'll tell you why.
It was shitload of money.
If you listen to it in order, you got to get through shitload of money before you get to Cinder Blocks.
Man, that is okay. So I'm going to digress for a moment.
Real quick.
Because I feel...
Dave, I have a right to be... I have a right... That's the other song I remember. Where did just...
That's later. That's later.
That's between shitload of money and Cinder Blocks with an X.
No, I think isn't that an...
No, I have a right is track 5. I got it right here.
Unbelievable. Ed Guy was a band that I was very
Ed Guy.
much...
Fuck Ed Guy. That's a different episode.
Yeah,
though.
That's a different episode, but they had a song called Lavatory Love Machine.
Okay, it's not so much fuck Ed Guy as it is fuck to buy a salmon and stupid fucking hat.
Yes, that goddamn hat. But seeing the name Lavatory Love Machine on the back of the record, I was like, I'm not gonna buy this.
I refuse.
And that is the exact reaction that I have to seeing a song called Shitload of Money on a Sonata Arctica album.
Totally.
It's not what I came to Sonata Arctica for.
Yeah, and I feel like this is an instance where like English not as a first language starts becoming a problem when you're writing tracks like this, because for one, this is supposed to be like, I think this song is clearly supposed to be kind of like a kick-ass, like money for nothing kind of, but you can't do that with shitload of money, right? Like you can't.
Well, that whole Finnish as a first language showed up on the first album with Full Moon
so much,
because he says a bunch of times, but what it comes to my mind immediately is Full Moon is on the sky. The line Full Moon is on the sky in Finnish, that's correct. That's the preposition you use. But in English it's in the sky.
I mean,
if there's any like weird Sonata lyrics prior to Shitload of Money, you can probably chalk it up to Finnish prepositions being different than English.
But yeah, so I mean, noteworthy low points are Shitload of Money and Cinder Blocks.
With
so Cinder Blocks, Cinder Blocks is basically like Sonata Arctica trying to sound like, I don't know, bluegrass, and then shifting into what seems like a relatively normal sonata chorus, then back to bluegrass. So the verses, I mean, there's like what almost sounds like a yodel, like it's bizarre.
I feel like I need to listen to this now because I do actually enjoy, unironically, good bluegrass.
This quote from Tony Kakko may change your mind. Quote, "As you might figure, it started out as a joke."
Oh,
this is regarding Cinder Blocks with an X. "Me fooling around with this banjo sound I came across. Wrote a riff which turns into a song. And when we then decided it's going to be recorded for the album, all we had to do was find someone to play the banjo. We did. ... This is the one song that still makes me smile every time I hear it." There is a lot in that last sentence.
Now,
which I want to talk about the last time I saw Sonata Arctica. I don't know if this is a good time to. It probably is, because I think it was on this tour. Because I was hoping they'd play some good songs. They, when they played the set, when they played old songs, the entire band was like moving around the stage, you know, rocking out, having a great time. And when they were playing new songs, everyone looked like they wanted to die except for Tony. He was like, "I'm loving this. This is what I want to eat," you know, and everyone's just standing there going, F, A, C, you know, like they wanted to be anywhere else except for Tony. So when he says Cinder Blocks is the one song that still makes him smile, like, I believe it. I don't think he likes the good songs anymore. I think he likes only his self-indulgent bullshit. that
Yeah,
has,
see it
that
happen.
has proliferated on these later albums.
Now, I will briefly. I'll make a confession. I don't hate this song. Yeah, I will freely confess that it's probably a low part of the album, but I don't hate it. It's just weird enough that I find something in it.
That
And I
makes
have
one
to-
of us.
I have to put the disclaimer that I have not seen nor heard any of these songs live or otherwise. I haven't listened to anything since I think the last Sonata Arctica song I heard new was Black or White.
That's probably for the best.
Black and White?
Okay.
In black and white, I think is what it's
In
called.
Black and White. Okay.
You're thinking of
All right.
Michael Jackson.
No, the Michael Jackson. Man,
So
why didn't they ever? Oh, can I digress again?
yeah, go for it.
Their covers were fucking phenomenal. They put out in the early aughts a couple of EPs. They had a cover of Fade to Black that they did that was not faithful to the Metallica version, but that they made their own. There's others. They had a great version of I Want Out.
I did
love
not know
song.
that.
And I want to know why they've never covered Michael Jackson. They've covered Bette Midler.
Only RVG can cover Michael Jackson.
At this
right.
point.
Okay, so let's go on to the next album, which is Pariah's Child. So I will admit that I have not listened to this album as much as I would like because I was sort of disgusted with Sonata Arctica at this point.
Yeah, so I did buy this album because I had the MP3s. So,
Okay, so it is more of a return to form. You know, from what I've heard, it's a little bit more mid-tempo than the first four, but it definitely, like, you have the wolf theme. Like, something that we haven't mentioned is that basically Sonata Arctica loves wolves. Like, everything, all the imagery is a wolf. And the cover of Pariah's Child is just a wolf just standing. Like, hey,
so
what's up?
I looked at the average Metal Archives reviews.
Yeah.
For all of the studio albums, and it it kind of like it wavers for 4 albums, but it's all like around 80-ish, right? And then it
Right.
dips to the high 60s for Unia and Stone's Grower Name, and then it pops back up for Pariah's Child, so all the way up to 74. So
Right.
I think you're on to something. But then there's the ski jump after that.
Yeah, so they did a re-release of Ecliptica, which is what brought on my talk about them not having a click. I've never listened to it. Ecliptica itself is good for me.
I can speak to that. It's
Okay.
It's if you're buying a re-recording and expecting them to do it as well as they did 15 years ago, you're gonna be disappointed. Like, they changed the key of Blank File, for example.
I was disappointed. From the minute that album started, I was disappointed.
Yeah. So, but overall, it's pretty good. It has better, or not better, but more modern, high-end production.
Okay.
But the performance isn't as raw. I hate that term, but it's not.
Yeah, I get
like
it.
the unpolishedness is what gave it a lot of character, as well as playing things higher because he was younger and could sing higher.
Yeah.
All right. So after this,
But it's not bad.
2 years.
It's I'd put it 5th. It's the 5th best album.
All right. So I love in the top 5 Ecliptica's there twice.
Twice. Yep.
So in the
to the songwriting.
Sounds right.
so in the 2 years after Pariah's Child comes the 9th Hour, and I don't know what the fuck happened to Tony.
Yeah, and
this point.
I do not. So that's when I'm done. I don't have this one. I've never heard a note off of it.
I bought this album because I was like, I'm just going to give him another shot. And it's just this mid-tempo, boring.
What the fuck is this cover?
There's a lot going on with that.
It looks like an arcology from Sim City.
That's exactly what it looks like. It doesn't need to be described further.
And we now just dated ourselves and our audience.
No, we were talking about buying CDs.
All right, so
I was at a bar in 2002, so.
but like, okay, so this album, it's not even that it's bad, it's just offensively boring. Do you know what I mean?
Like that's the sticker that's on the album. Offensively boring, metalhead.
Yeah, the exclamation point.
No, but like, it's one thing. Like when I'm trying to think of. Okay, I'm not particularly into rap music, but when I hear rap music, I really dislike it, and it's like, okay, I just don't like this style. With this, it's like I feel like he woke up and he was like, oh, it's about time for another album. What am I gonna write about this time?
Jeez.
Maybe I'll go sip some wine out on the veranda and think about it. It's just so mild. Oh, fucking goddamn it.
Listen to this. Fairy Tale was a satire on the political events of the United States by the time of the album sessions. I want to watch you react to this. Fly, Navigate, Communicate is a Devin Townsend Project influenced song that compares human relations to flying procedures. Kako described it as the hardest, most aggressive, and speediest song on the album.
Wow.
White Pearl Black Oceans Part 2 by The Grace of the Ocean continues the story introduced in Reckoning Nights White Pearl Black Oceans. It is originally intended to be the album's closing track. I guess it's not. Yeah. Oh, the closing track is On the Fault Line, parentheses, closure to an animal, because the opening track is closer to an animal. See what they did there?
I see that.
And then there's a Bryan Adams cover on the Digipack.
Yeah, so like this album is hard to get through because it's so just mild. Yeah, like it's impossible to state how like bland this album is. And honestly, I consider blandness to be worse than being bad, right?
Yeah.
I would much rather something be real bad than bland, and this is as bland as it gets.
Even with Troy Donockley from Nightwish doing the Overton low whistle on We Are What We Are.
Well, now...
Oh, he didn't even go to Finland to record it. He recorded it in England. Like, I'll do it, but I'm not getting on no plane.
All right, so 3 years later...
Once the check clears, I'll head over to the studio.
Let's see. 3 years later, you've got Talvio, and I've not listened to this.
You finally
live.
learned your lesson. I will say the cover looks great. They went back to the old logo. So that's something we didn't mention. When did they switch logos? They switched it for...
It was Days of Grays, I think.
Unia has the new logo.
Yeah.
And they went back starting in Pariah's Child.
So they did. I was hoping that was like the indicator that they finally stopped sucking.
No. Yeah, so Talvio, it's just I can't tell you if I've heard it because I've seen them live since this was released.
Right.
It all just sounded like the Ninth Hour to me. So it was all just this bland mid-tempo bullshit.
The title of the album is a Finnish word for winter night.
Oh. There you go. So that's the sequel to Reckoning Night.
Winter Reckoning
clearly.
Night.
Yeah, so reviews on Metal Archive seem to indicate it's a slight improvement, but it still seems kind of all over the place. There still seems to be some indication that it's like pretty bland mid-tempo.
Kako admitted Kako admitted that the opening track Message from the Sun could be misleading because, quote, it's more of the power metal side of Sonata Arctica for all our power metal fans, unquote. The song talks about the mythology behind the Northern Lights. So the opening track is a fake out. Hey, we're power metal again. Fuck you, track 2 sucks.
Yeah, and then this year they've done a lot of acoustic. They've released 2 acoustic albums, and
with none of the old songs that I want to hear done in an acoustic arrangement.
Yeah, they have "I Have a Right." So who gives a shit?
Great. Do they have shitload of money?
They have "Letter to Dana," "Full Moon," "Shemandalai," "San Sebastian," "Graven Image,"
okay,
"Flag in the Ground," "Victoria's Secret,"
okay,
"Black Sheep."
Volume 2 looks way better than Volume 1.
Yeah, some good ones.
Let's see. Talala on Volume 1.
Yeah, as well as a little less understanding, As If the World Wasn't Ending, and The Wolves Die Young.
Okay. So now we're kind of up to date. So we have to discuss here, like, what the fuck happened.
Well, hang on. I found the complete list of cover stuff. For our listeners, I did air quotes that you couldn't hear. Complete list of cover songs: Stradivarius Black Diamond, Stradivarius Speed of Light, unsurprising, Metallica Fade to Black, Bette Midler Wind Beneath My Wings, Iron Maiden really Die With Your Boots On, fucking terrible song, Depeche Mode, World in My Eyes, Vanishing Point. Really? Vanished? The Australian band? Cool. 2 Minds, One Soul. I love Vanishing Point. 2 Minds, One Soul by them. Scorpions, Still Loving You. Halloween, I Want Out. Gary Moore, Out in the Fields. Hava Nagila, At the End of the Cage. That doesn't count. Pantera, Cowboys from Hell. Yeah, Alice Cooper, Hell is Living Without You. Genesis, I Can't Dance. Oh, that is terrible. I've heard that one. It's not good. And Bryan Adams, Run to You.
I feel like this is an appropriate time to bring up the story of seeing them touring Talvio.
Yes.
Talvia. So, Tim graciously stayed home with his kids, and his wife went to see Sonata Arctica open. Well, no, Camelot opened for Sonata, if I recall correctly.
Oh, I hope it was the other way around. No, it was. It was Camelot headlined. She really wanted to see Camelot. And so did I. And yeah. So I was like, well, how about you go, expecting her to say no? And she goes, okay. I was like, damn. So, fortunately, I had seen Camelot on the same tour already.
Okay.
Because it was like the second time they came back to the area. You know how they do that sometimes?
Yeah.
Like they'll do 2 legs, and the second leg has a different opener, but it's the same tour.
Yeah.
So I just missed Camelot, and maybe I dodged a bullet, but she was texting me during the whole Sonata set, going, "What the fuck is this shit?"
Oh no.
Yeah, and I showed her the set list before she went. I was like,
so I was there as well, and she and I were talking the whole time. I was like, I don't know what the fuck happened to them, and she was like, "What the fuck?" and
I'm gonna pull up that set list for you.
Yeah, and I don't feel like this is the kind of. I don't feel like she's the kind of person that feels this level of disgust. So I found it like, yeah, this must be real bad if she's gonna be like, why?
All right, here we go. Raise your hand. Or I guess say something, because we are an audio podcast, when it's a song you've heard of. A Little Less Understanding, Closer to an Animal, Whirlwind, Cold, Storm the Armada, X Marks the Spot, Who Failed the Most, Full Moon.
Yay.
I know that one.
Life, Outro Tape.
Yeah.
Depends on what's on the outro tape. I might know that.
You poor people. So I know the last time I saw them was at Baltimore Soundstage, so I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, so it was that one was like half and half. If I recall correctly, they played Destruction Preventer at that one.
Ooh.
Yeah, that sounds right. All right, that might have been 2006. If so, yes, this looks right. No. There's too much good stuff on here. No. I think this is right because it was mostly. All right, it's The Wolves Die Young, My Land, Full Moon, Kingdom for a Heart, Ta-La-La, Blood, Eighth Commandment, White Pearl, Black Oceans, Replica, What Did You Do in the War, Dad? I Have a Right, The Cage, Destruction Preventer, and Don't Say a Word. Yeah, I was definitely at that one.
Yeah, so we were there together, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. They also played at Soundstage, like not with Camelot on the same tour. And that's some bullshit, because they added Ta-La-La and Black Sheep. And they still had all the shit songs.
All right, so now we have to ask ourselves what the fuck happened. And I'd like to actually read this quote from an interview done in 2014.
All right, wait, 2014. I gotta figure out, that was Pariah's Child. So that was that was after 2.5 albums of junk. So
yeah. So this is from My Global Mind, and so Tony says, I never really considered myself being a metalhead. I just drifted into doing this by being totally into power metal, or more closely Stradivarius, back in the late 90s. And then the band I was in suddenly scored a recording deal with this power metal style demo. I think holy shit, I think in some ways I am writing my music for the wrong people. Or I take it back, I write my music mainly to please myself. If others like my songs, is a nice bonus. So I think that, let's see. The thing is, we never even played the traditional power metal to start with, which I highly doubt or highly disagree with. It was always a little different from the industry genre definition, and lots of power metal fans, even in the beginning, claim we're not real power metal, although I did feel we were at the time. But for over a decade now, I have chosen not to give a shit about genres. Music is music. So reading some interviews, this is one example. I've read some others that I can't recall at the moment, but there's been a lot of, he tends to say, like, power metal is just something that we fell into in the beginning. It's not necessarily what I like or what I am. Right. And it's really unfortunate because they put out 4 excellent power metal albums and then went off the rails entirely. Well, it slowly went off the rails and then I guess moved on to a slow speed highway and just have been drifting there ever since. So the best I can figure is, Tony is the lead songwriter of the band. I don't know what degree Yanni Linnerman, thank you. I don't know what influence he had on the band, but he was there through Unia. Unia had, it still sounded like Sonata to me. And then after he left, it's sort of all over the place.
I think that was really the tipping point.
I have some, well, I was hoping to have more insight than that. For Ecliptica, all songs written by Tony Kakko except for Eighth Commandment and Picturing the Past, co-written by Yanni Liimatainen. And then Silence doesn't have the songwriters listed. Yeah, neither does Winter Hearts Guild. Okay, so we can't answer that. Oh. Reckoning Night. All tracks written by Tony Kakko except for My Celine. So it seems like, by Yanni again. So it seems like he contributed, but not enough to get songwriting credits too often.
I think that he was probably like, if we imagine the band as a car and the road it is driving down is all possible hard rock idioms, I think that Yanu was the one pulling the band most towards the power metal side. He was the tire that was leaning towards power metal. And when he left and Elias was hired, and Tony was like, well, I've already been writing all of these songs. I would not be surprised to learn that the dynamic shifted drastically when Yanni left, to where it was like Tony's band, where he came with songs and Elias played the leads and Marco sat there and played his bass parts and Tommy played like a metronome.
Well, I mean, like, I see what you're saying. Like, okay, if we think about Eisenmore for a second, so the track Sigurd's song, if you look at like the songwriting credit, you know, it was largely myself and some Tim. However, without the feedback from the rest of the band, that song would suck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, technically, you can write down, it's like, oh, you know, Mike did the majority of the songwriting on that song, but I needed a lot of feedback in order to get it into that state, and without everybody else in the band actually coming and saying like, this is dragging on, sounds good, you know. So while it's not technically songwriting at that point, it's like feedback giving. It was necessary, or that song would have not come out the way it did.
Right. And if we were discussing this on our Opeth Dream Set podcast as well, like when it comes to one member of the band becoming the total and dominating driving force between like coming with the songs and coming with the vision and creatively driving everything, it kills the ability for it to be a functioning band. And it then becomes so-and-so's songs played by this group of people.
Yeah.
And it just from like my very, very casual attention paid to the post Jan and Limatainen years, that's what it looked like. It was Tony's song. It was the Tony show, which it can work if you're a generational talent.
Right. Yeah. Like,
are you implying that a certain frontman isn't a generational talent?
From a songwriting perspective, no. From a performance and vocal perspective, who knows? Because man, the nights when he was on, he was fucking on.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good vocalist. He's still a good vocalist.
And he was a phenomenal performer when he was fully into it. Like,
yeah, it's just now he sounds like he wants to be asleep instead of playing a show.
Yeah. And that may well be the sad truth, is that he would rather be doing something else, and this is all he knows. I don't know. I don't want to get too philosophical about it, but
no, I mean, there's something to be said. I mean, there are other forms of entertainment that I read or listen to or whatever, where you can tell that it was started off as one thing. The driving force of the band is now kind of not interested in that original thesis, yet they keep going because that's how they make money.
I wonder. Oh, was that the end of your point?
Well,
finish your point. I thought you were done.
Well, so like, I feel like there's two ways to approach that. One of them, I think, is artistically bankrupt, but more practical, and the other one is impractical, but like artistically, I don't know, pure. You can either turn your money making band into what you want it to be, or you can start a side project and then try to build again. And I absolutely understand why you'd want to do, you know, the former, where it's like, I have this thing that already makes money. I just don't want to play the music. So I'm just going to make it into what, like I think Opeth is basically that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But I wonder if there are people who like all the new stuff and don't like the old stuff. Because I bet there are new Opeth fans where he is successfully pulled in the type of people who like bland 70s prog rock and don't like death metal, and now they're Opeth fans. Who is the audience for new Sonata Arctica? But
I don't want to.
Are there people who like that and don't like the old stuff?
Because they keep coming to shows, but like,
Yeah, but are they hoping to hear old songs, or are they there to hear this new drivel?
Yeah.
Yeah, like is everybody just like, yes, Tony, no, it's great. And then everybody else is just literally like, come on. Like, yeah, give me a hit. Full moon. Yeah.
Is he gonna play San Sebastian? Oh my god.
I just feel like as they became more, do you think it's fair to refer to Sonata Arctica as an emo band?
It's not even like
only if you're doing so insultingly. I think so.
But
emo.
I think they appeal to the extremely emotionally sensitive, tending towards tragedy-minded and somewhat melancholy. I don't know. I think Sonata Arctica appeals largely to isolated teenagers.
But the thing is, though, is that emo, okay, all my high school friends were into emo. I've actually been to a good number of emo shows. They're not as boring as new Sonata Arctica. Sonata Arctica is significantly more boring to me than a Dashboard Confessional or a Piebald or a Saves the Day. They're much, much more entertaining and enjoyable to listen to than how bland the new shit is.
I don't mean to do it. I don't mean to say so on like a musical comparison. But
okay.
Just from like the vibe that they put out, like the Days of Grays, like you're appealing to the Twilight fans in the world.
Okay. Okay. So it's, yeah, I can see that where it's just people that, and you know, actually,
I like the guy, wolf shirt guy. You know the guy I mean, the guy with the wolf on his shirt.
That's what they are as a band, really.
It's what they are as a band.
But like, I've definitely seen shows of theirs where he's talking in between songs. So it's like, we're going to play this happy up, or the, you know, first 4 albums. Let's go. And then he's like, this song's about when I felt a little depressed and we all die. And it's like, Tony, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, you can't be talking about this wearing your fishnet shirt.
Yeah.
It doesn't match. It doesn't match. That fucking fishnet shirt drives me crazy.
I'm glad that that's still a thing.
He does that every show.
One constant.
I found an interesting. I found an interesting interview with Henka.
Oh yeah,
that was after. Let's see. Henka after Unia came out. It's an angry metal guy. Hopefully I remember to put the link in the description. Also, if you send me the link for the interview you found, that'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Anyway, it seems like you guys, this is the interviewer. No. I'm sorry. This is Days of the Grays. It seems like you guys have moved a little bit back toward faster, but you're not really doing that Silence era material. Has that been an organic change or is that intentional? Are you sick of it, finding it monotonous, or that Tony is just writing more progressive music? What happened there? Henka says, well, I think it's maybe a combination of all the stuff that you just said. Unia for us was the most different album that we ever made, and that came at a point when everybody was sick of the super fast thing, and we wanted to try something more interesting, and Tony said he was having trouble writing these fast songs. We said, let's just roll with it and see what happens. So for us, that was an album we really had to make for ourselves. A lot of that stuff shines true on this album as well, Days of the Grays. But there was never any intention to go back. I think there was never an intention with any album to go. Oh, sorry. Maybe it has some elements from the past, but we're just heading in some other direction now. It comes pretty naturally. And also when we tour for a couple of years, a lot of things change during that time. And that goes into the writing process from Tony. And of course, the arrangements that we do, that means that the next one is going to be, again, something different. We really don't knock anything out before or have like a band meeting, quote, like the next album should be like this or that, unquote. We just roll with it and see what happens. I think the main thing is that mostly depends on what Tony comes up with. And then he goes on to say later that they got a lot of new fans from Unia who weren't really into Sonata. Of course, a lot of people did not like it as well because they would like us to do silence 10 times over, and that's fine. I agree. They should do silence 10 times over.
Yeah.
But they wanted
best.
to keep themselves motivated and interested in this business. We have to keep the music interesting as well. We got quite a bit of mixed reviews, but all in all, we came out ahead. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. There's a clear indication that they're sort of disinterested in their original sound at this point.
Yeah. It makes me think of Ulver a little bit. Like, they were, oh man, they are one of my favorite bands, but they did 3 metal albums. They did 1 metal album. They did 1 metal album, 1 extremely raw black metal album, and a folk acoustic guitar thing, hard rock electronic, ambient electronic. Like, but with Ulver, I like their later work. Like, it's not what I want to hear them play. It's not what I fell in love with, but it's interesting music to me that I enjoy listening to.
Yeah, I feel like Ulver gets a pass because they were never ever one thing. Yeah, because they have Bergtot, which is, I always refer to it as like Beach Boy black metal because it's almost like black metal with like really interesting guitar or vocal harmonies.
Mm-hmm.
Kveldsanger, which is folk. Yeah. Nathan's Madrigal, which famously was maybe recorded in a forest.
Maybe. Maybe in the midst of a cocaine binge.
Yeah. But then you get, themes from William Blake's Heaven and Hell and Perdition City, where they just was like, yeah, fuck everything we just did. Yeah.
But those are banging tracks. Like, I spent a good part of my college years listening to the Metamorphosis EP and A Quick Fix of Melancholy. Like, those two were just brilliant soundscapes that he put together.
But I think one of the differences between Ulver and Sonata Arctica is that, like, they never really had an established sound. Right. If even by the third album, if somebody asked you to describe Ulver, you could not say they're black metal. I mean, they sort of are. But
yeah, kind of.
But you would never just say, like, even by Nathan's Madrigal, which is their third album, it's like, what style are they? It's like, maybe metal?
Yeah. I mean, there was, what time? That was 96 that Nathan's Madrigal came out, yeah?
97.
97. And so Kveldsanger was 96?
Yep.
I mean, we had already had plenty of acoustic guitars in black metal by that point. I recognize that we're taking this into a different what the fuck happened episode, but we should put that down on the list of future ones to talk about, because I can talk about Ulver all night long.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Is there really a what the fuck happened? I mean,
I have said
your style every 10 minutes, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I mean, they had some consistent electronic sounds for several years, but sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, I don't think what the fuck happened has to be negative necessarily. Like, it could be like, what the fuck happened? They just stayed awesome, but they just did it in lots of different ways.
Yeah.
We'll agree to disagree on that one. So, can Sonata Arctica be saved though?
No.
Could they put out a speed metal album? And
I mean, I'd listen to it, but I doubt if they were to do so, I would happily listen to it. But I don't think Tony has any interest at this point. Like, you know, his interviews that we've found and everything that I've read in the past, including the examples that we found here, seem to indicate that Tony just doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I agree.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I'm sort of philosophically opposed to this idea of, like, taking your existing band and repurposing it. But like I said, I totally understand it from the practical standpoint. That's how he makes his money.
Mm-hmm.
if you can keep making money doing what you love, even if your original fans think that it's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, if they're happy, that's the thing. Like, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the fact that Tony doesn't seem to want to.
Right.
They're just not interested in doing that right now. And that's the reason that we're never going to get another Morning Rise either, is because, you know, Mike is not interested in doing those things. And
Right.
it sucks, but we do at least still have those albums and those live recordings and those bootlegs.
Yeah, I don't know. I think when we wrap this up imminently, I'm gonna go watch Reckoning Night. No. What's the
For the sake of revenge?
Thank you. For the sake of revenge, you know. And
great show.
I have Live in Finland, but I don't think I'm gonna watch it. There's too many new songs.
But yeah, no, I mean, you can't go wrong with any of their first 4 albums, except for maybe The Boy Who Used to Be a Real Puppet.
You can just delete that off out of your library. All right. Well, do you have any closing thoughts before we get out of here and I go watch For the Sake of Revenge?
Tony, I love you, but please, I don't know, drink an energy drink before you write your next album.
To all of our dear listeners out there, if you haven't heard Songs of Silence,
Live in Tokyo. Great live album.
Amazing record. Find it however you can, even if it's, on the high seas.
I have 2 copies of that. I have the US release and the Japanese release after you showed me because you have the Japanese release, right? With the anime cover?
With the anime cover, yeah.
And I had to go out and get it. I had to get it.
I don't have that album. Abigail has that album.
You should pay her a visit.
Next time I'm in Seattle, I might have to pilfer it.
Yeah, so join the Patreon. So Dave can afford a plane ticket.
That's right.
All right. Until next time, keep it slow and boring and bland. No, I'm sorry. No, keep it fast and energetic like early Sonata Arctica. Hail Metal Nation.
Yeah, dude, listening to the 9th hour, I was like, there's no way it can be this bad. Right? Oh my
God. And then it
God.
continued being that bad.